Hi, good evening. Welcome along to the Transfer Show. This time next week, the window will have closed by a matter of seconds. Oh, yes. Well, we know the final week is usually the start of a frantic rush for deals. We are here for it. Kaveh Solokol, Dharmesh Sheth with me this evening to talk you through everything that is moving. Alexander Isak's future hangs in the balance. They made a £50 million bid for Wolverhampton's Jørgen Strand Larsen today, but that was rejected, as Wolves say the Norwegian is not for sale. Keith Downey has more.
It's £50 million up front, no add-ons. Newcastle, of course, desperate for striker reinforcements. We all know the situation surrounding Alexander Isak. We still don't know yet if he will remain a Newcastle United player or move on this transfer window. Of course, they've been trying for other targets as well. Many of those deals have been stretched out, protracted. So they've gone to Wolves, attempted to bring in Strand Larsen, but Wolves have turned that offer down today. They say the player is not for sale. It will be interesting to see whether Newcastle go in with an improved bid for the Norwegian striker. But clearly, Eddie Howe looking for striking reinforcements. They don't want to overspend. I spoke to him just a couple of days ago in the build-up to this game. He says they don't want to overspend, but they know they need strikers in because they're playing not just in the Premier League this season, but they've got a Champions League campaign to contend with as well.
Yeah, Newcastle have kept us busy throughout this window. Kaveh, Isak, what's going to happen?
Well, I think the picture is going to become a lot clearer in the next 24, 48 hours, because if Liverpool are going to make another move for him, then obviously they're going to do it after tonight's game. But even if they were to make an improved bid, that may not be enough to get him out of Newcastle, because Newcastle have been very, very clear. They've got a valuation, and also they need to sign at least one replacement. Probably they need to sign another two forwards. So I don't think necessarily just because Liverpool are going to make an offer, that means he's going to end up being a Liverpool player. But I think just watch this space. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, the picture should become a lot clearer.
I think a big telltale sign was last week when Alexander Isak came out with his statement. What was particularly telling was the wording of Newcastle's response to that statement. They said that the terms and the conditions of a sale have not been met. So by simply saying that, there are terms and conditions for a sale. So they are prepared to sell Alexander Isak if a certain price is met and other conditions are met, i.e. them getting in replacements. They also said they don't expect those conditions to be met in this transfer window. That might be a way of telling Liverpool, in almost a thinly veiled way, you're going to have to raise your price, because if you do, there's probably a chance that Alexander Isak could still yet be sold in this transfer window because of how far it's gone between these two clubs. But it should be said here, and we have to reiterate it, Newcastle United's priority was to bring in replacements for him. Now, whether that will still be the case, because they seem to be running out of options as far as that's concerned. They've had another bid rejected today, even though that was more for a replacement for Callum Wilson. Are the strikers out there that are going to be able to replace Alexander Isak?
Well, let me ask you that. Are there the strikers out there?
Well, they wanted Hugo Ekitike. He's gone to Liverpool. And in a funny way, that might have made it more difficult for Liverpool to get Alexander Isak, because Newcastle United went all out to try and get him. They wanted Benjamin Sesko. They went all out to get Benjamin Sesko, but he wanted to go to Manchester United. So what other players can do what they think will be a similar job to Alexander Isak? Ollie Watkins was one that was mentioned. Kaveh's been speaking about Nicholas Jackson as well. It's whether the value that they get for those players this late in the window, because it's one thing them charging 130 to 150 million pounds for Alexander Isak. Two things will happen, because a club who Newcastle United are interested in one of their players in, they will say, well, we'll charge you at a zero, if they wanted to. And also, they'll be like, well, you've waited this late in the transfer window to raise your price for Isak, so why don't we do the same to you, because we know you've got the money now.
There's about 5 or 6 clubs in the Premier League who are looking to sign a forward, and a lot of people in the sort of industry think that this sort of Isak situation is blocking a lot of deals, and we need to wait and see what happens with Isak before clubs are really going to move when it comes to signing strikers. For instance, if Isak stays at Newcastle United, Arne Slot has said that Liverpool need to sign another forward. So would that mean that they would look elsewhere as well? This sort of pool of forwards who can play for the top Premier League clubs is getting smaller and smaller. At the start of the summer, there were players like Liam Delap, João Pedro, who were available as well. But as the clock ticks, you're going to be left with fewer and fewer options. But let's wait and see what happens with Isak.
Where's your gut feeling? Where will Isak be come 1 minute past 7 on deadline day, a week today?
I think it would be good for football if he stayed. I think, it's good for football that Newcastle carry on getting stronger and stronger. But obviously, we've been around the block a few times. We've seen this movie before. And more often than not, we know how it ends with the player getting what he wants. But on the other hand, I've seen a different ending to the movie as well, where the player sits down and signs a new contract and does a interview sort of saying, I'm really, really sorry, I had bad advice.
What do you think, Dharmesh?
I'm not going to sit on the fence.
Come on, what do you think?
I'm judging from what people in the industry are telling me, they expect him to leave. I would prefer him to stay.
Go. What do you think, Dharmesh?
I keep changing my mind about it.
Nobody cares what we think.
And the thing is,
I care.
I think once today is out of the way, as Carve's mentioning there, they just want to get this game out of the way because it's almost become a saga and a circus leading up to this game as well. It's just this Monday night football, you couldn't have timed it. You couldn't have made it up that Newcastle United would play Liverpool on the Monday night football a week out from the transfer window ending. But once this game is over, I think there will be some sort of clarity later on this week.
And the other thing is, I'm not saying Liverpool have engineered this situation, but tonight's game, they're going to be facing a Newcastle side who will be without Alexander Isak, which is obviously good news for Liverpool. And it sort of adds to, the arguments that people, especially managers, make, that the window should close before the season starts, because then you wouldn't have these kind of situations where Newcastle are going into a really, really important game when their star player wants to join the opposition.
Yeah, fascinating this. Well, let's stay with strikers then, because Johan Wissa is still the subject of speculation as we head towards the deadline. He's yet to feature for Brentford this season as he seeks a move to Newcastle. But how does the Brentford boss see this one playing out?
It's just a decision based around what I feel is best for the group. Keep saying it, understanding of the situation, understanding of the market, what goes on. It's going on at every single club, I'd imagine, up and down the land. The disruptive nature of it, but the focus is on the group tomorrow, so Johan won't be involved. But as far as I'm concerned, there's been no movement in any way, and fully expect Johan to be here come next Tuesday. The focus is on the team, really. When you get close to games and in and around games, and the nature of it, the emotions of it, I think can be difficult. So what goes on exactly behind closed doors, we'll probably keep a lot of that exactly there. My stance hasn't really changed from day one of when I took over. I knew there was or would be interest in Johan. Naturally, when you score that amount of Premier League goals and you play as well as he did last season in particular, and he's built his career at this football club over the last 4 years, where he's grown in stature, presence. Not surprised by it, and yeah, I haven't really changed throughout the whole time. I've been pretty consistent with my message around it, and it's not just because there's cameras here. It's how I genuinely feel.
Now, this seems so similar to the Isak situation. Player wants to go, club don't want him to go. Do you think that Johan Wissa will be a Brentford player come 1 minute past 7 next Monday?
Again, it's another saga that keeps rolling on, but rather like the Isak saga, they've chosen not to play him either. He's made it clear he wants to go. He made it clear that he wants to play for Newcastle United. I think a couple of things would have to happen, rather like the Isak situation, in that Brentford would want to bring in a replacement. They brought in Dango Ouattara, but he was generally thought of as a replacement for Brian Mbeumo. They didn't want to finish this window having lost both Mbeumo and Yohan Wissa. Now, there was a time, if the timing earlier on in this window, had Newcastle United got Yohan Wissa earlier in the window, they might have been able to complete that deal. But it came at a time when Manchester United were going for Mbeumo. And effectively, United got there first, completed that Mbeumo deal. And that's when the saga started with Wissa, in effect, because Brentford said, well, we can't let him go unless we bring in a replacement for him. So that's where we're at the moment. Brentford, as much as Wissa will want to go, Brentford will be telling him, we need to bring in that replacement. They're clearly looking to bring in a replacement, because in an ideal scenario, they don't want a player at the club who doesn't want to be there. But they also need to be set for the rest of the season. And at the moment, everything is up in the air. They've got a little less than 7 days. Yep, it's ticked below 7 days now to get this deal done. Not only Wissa to go to Newcastle, but for someone to come into Brentford as well. Newcastle
Fans fuming that Liverpool are doing this to them. Are they not doing exactly the same thing to Brentford?
I've kind of heard that said, but I mean, Newcastle fans aren't just one mass. They're different people who think different things. I'm sure, obviously, a lot of Newcastle fans are very, very disappointed with the way Isak has been behaving. But I think the Wissa situation, maybe there's more than meets the eye. But obviously, both of them are talking about the fact, I think, that promises were made and promises have been broken. But guess what? That's the way the football business works. It's not very pleasant, but that's the way it works.